Welcome to the Ascend Growth AI podcast, where we make smart growth moves with a little AI magic. I'm Teresa. Let's dive in. For today's guest, we have Bruce Jackson, who owns Mathnasium franchise in Centerpoint, Ottawa. So, Bruce, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start by having you share your journey with us, because before Mathnasium, I know you've had many other experiences I'd love to learn about.
Yes, my journey is long and on a path not well traveled. It starts off in the beginning. I grew up on a dairy farm, so I learned about small business from the beginning of life. From there, I went off to university because my parents believed that school was more important than farming. And I went into a very different field than what I did as a career, but it actually helped me. Because the thing that I did, I was able to fix things and problem solve from a very young age. And what thing that my parents did was a little strange at the time was they actually bought me a personal computer, which was at a time where no one else had personal computers. And through that, I had to figure out how to program it because it wasn't like a mechanical device I could just take apart and fix. So I actually taught myself software development as a child. But then I decided to do something very different in university, and I actually have a degree in political science and philosophy. And people go, why did you do that? And the main reason why I did that is I wanted to figure out how to think about problems from a completely different perspective. Because doing software development taught me how to think about problems from a very micro level, but looking at it from the perspective of political science and philosophy, it taught me to think about problems from a macro level. So I'm able to both solve problems from a micro and macro level at the same time, which is very interesting. I originally started off working for the National Research Council here in Ottawa, and then I moved to India. And I lived in India for a couple of years. And while I was there, I actually had the opportunity to teach computer science to a high school. And then I came back to Canada, and I got a job with Nortel Networks. And it was at that place that I actually learned proper software development at scale, because we were solving countrywide networking. And then, as most people know, Nortel Networks kind of fell apart and sold off all of its assets, both intellectual property and humans, to different companies because they got themselves into a big financial issue. And at that point, I went off and I did some consulting for a while. And then I did that for a few years, but I realized the thing that was lacking is I was not able to sit at the table and convince people of changing direction, because I was just a consultant and I had no skin in the game, and they didn't think I had any skin in the game. So then I went back into the private sector. And at this point, I spent pretty much the next 15 years of my life working in small startups because I realized that I had the biggest opportunity to change the way the company was headed. And I did that successfully for a very long time. Successful from my side because I learned a lot and was able to do really cool things. Unsuccessful from the startup space because, as you know, most startups fail. And I have been at many that have failed. But through that process, I was always thinking about what can I learn from this, even through failure, like what's the most important thing. And the thing that I realized became the most important thing was the people. And why do you hire people? It's because of their values. If you hire for skills first, it's going to cause you a lot of problems. Hire for values first. And as more and more I thought about this, and the more and more I read about it, and talked to other leaders, the more I realized that hiring for values was the most important thing. So figure out what values you want, figure out how to identify them, and then find them. And so I do this to this day. As you're starting off on this journey, the most important decision that you'll have to make after deciding on what kind you're going to do is the people. So hire for values, figure out what values are important to you. My daughter started to struggle in math, and we took her around to different options. I took her into a Mathnasium to see how they were evaluating her and trying to figure out how she learned. And I realized that there was a different way of teaching math. So I quit my job, and I opened my own Mathnasium to change children's lives. And that's why I'm doing this. I want to change the trajectory of their life. And I've been successfully able to do that.
That's really nice. How do you find the franchise world versus the traditional starting?
The franchise world de-risks a lot of things in some ways because they have a proven product. They have some marketing. The challenge is that you're tied into that mothership. Like, you don't get to make as many of those sort of product decisions, but at the end of the day, is that as important to me? The product is good, and I get the opportunity to change children's lives. And that's the reason why I started this journey. It's because of that. It's not for the money. Really have that sort of come to Jesus moment, like, why am I doing this? What's the thing that's driving me down this path? And for me, it's changing children's lives, giving back to the community.
That's really nice. What area do you cover? Is it all of Ottawa, or like what's your region?
I have a region within Ottawa.
Okay.
So Mathnasium, currently there are 7 Mathnasiums here in Ottawa. and there's a few more territories available. I have access. My region is around probably 80 to 100,000 people. It's like a guaranteed territory. I don't compete against the other mathnasiums.
Do you have a lot of other competition in the area, like other franchises?
Oh, there's definitely other math tutoring organizations and private. We compare very well against them because we actually teach math curriculum. That's one of the key differentiators. We're not just there to help with homework, like we actually teach math. And the way we teach math is an interesting way. What I didn't realize is that I actually taught myself how to do math until I saw the way Mathnasium did it, and I realized that someone else teaches math the same way that I thought of math. I didn't use a lot of techniques that teachers taught me because I thought they were inefficient. So when I saw the Mathnasium method for teaching, I went, this is how I think of math. So for me, it was very easy. What I have to do now is when I hire a new instructor, and I make sure they all have university level math, and I have to teach them how to teach math properly. And I spend quite a bit of time with each person to make sure that they are teaching math the way that I believe it needs to be taught, both from a skill perspective and also from an interaction perspective. Because each interaction with a child needs to end in a positive outcome. Like, I have children run through the door to get taught math with smiles on their face. People are shocked. When parents come in to like have their child evaluated, like, why are these children smiling? Because they want to be here. And this is how you know you're making a positive impact. Most children are there because they're not doing well in math, and for them, it's a lot of shame to get back their confidence. So what I actually tell parents now is, I don't actually teach math. I rebuild confidence by using math as a vehicle for doing it. And that is a very valuable skill. I know this from my daughter. Once we rebuilt her confidence, she's now confident in every single class. Like, it doesn't matter. She'll ask questions. She's not scared to say, I don't know this. And that's a massive change.
That's wonderful. I know in the US, some mathnasiums compete with other, not necessarily other learning centers, but other activities like after school activities. Is it the same for you?
Same challenges I have. There's always other activities.
Yeah.
And at some point, you need to have honest conversations with parents about, what's more important for the child's future. Is it continuing to put all that time and energy into hockey, something that they will take with them for the rest of their life? Because especially when children start to get a little older, they need to focus on things that are important. Hockey might be the most important thing because they have a chance to make the NHL. But the reality is, not many make it. I played junior hockey. I made it to almost the very top of hockey, one level below professional hockey. I was still not good enough. And out of the people that I played with, only a couple got a call up. The rest never made it. So if they had nothing else to fall back on, what did they do? Me, I had stuff to fall back on because I prioritize those other things more important than hockey.
How about marketing and market differentiation strategies and educational franchising? Is there different things that you're applying to your store?
The thing that I'm doing is that I'm trying to create. So I don't know if you know about, there's a guy who wears a yellow suit. His name is Jesse. He runs the Banana Savannas. They're like sort of like the Harlem Globetrotters, but they play baseball. And last year at the Mathnasium conference, he came and spoke to us, and he talked about like extreme customer experience, making sure that customer experience is the most important thing. And this is something that I've sat at the table with CEOs of all the startups that I work with and said, how are we improving customer service? What's the most important way that we can make our customers' journey better? And this is something that I spend a lot of time thinking about how my centers, everything from like the moment you walk up, how are we making this experience better for the parent, for the child, so that this is the best experience that they'll have today. And that is a key differentiator for me personally, because there's a lot of people who are in it for the money. They're just there to like get child through the door, teach them some math. And for me, it is, how can we make this enjoyable? So we do different things. I teach children how to play chess because I think it is a valuable skill for understanding how to analyze what's going on, how to make decisions, both tactically and strategically. And you can use some math skills here. So how can we use our math skills for something else? Mm-hmm. So we teach children card games. So we spend some time each session with children, play games with them. And the parents normally in the beginning, they're like, why are you playing games? Like, well, there's a reason. It gives us an opportunity to engage with the child in a different way. But the other thing is, it gives us an opportunity to teach a child about tactics, analyzing, and strategy, which are all valuable skills. And they're life skills that they will keep with them for the rest of their life. Right. And I have children who come in, they've never played chess before, and I'll sit with them and I'll teach them how to play chess. Will they become grandmasters? Unlikely, but that's not the point. The point is for them to learn a new game that's really hard to master and understand the process of figuring out how to do it.
That's fantastic. No wonder your children have smiling faces coming in and out the door.
Yeah, there's lots of little things that you can do to make them feel like they belong there. And we spent a lot of time thinking about what does it mean? How can we improve the engagement with each child?
What's the age range of your children?
I teach everyone. The youngest child I have is 5 years old, and the oldest child, they're in grade 12. So
That's a big
everywhere
range.
from 5 to 18. I will teach anyone within that space. A lot of other tutors won't deal with little kids or big kids because
Okay.
they're too hard to teach. The math is either too complex for the high school kids or the little kids it requires too much patience. I need to make sure that the people that I hire are able to teach everywhere from a little kid all the
Yeah.
way through to calculus. And those are very different skill sets. And a lot of other math tutoring won't deal with the old ones or the young ones. And the ones in the middle are more interesting because the way that we have to teach them math so that it sticks with them so they get better at high school math is very different than what they see in school. And so there's a different set of skills there that, like, if you were to go back and try to do grade 6 math again, you would do poorly at it because you would have forgotten all the techniques that you used. And I have instructors coming in who have math degrees and have forgotten how to do grade 6 math because they've learned so many advanced techniques. They've forgotten how to do simpler math. So they need to go back and rethink, how do I teach this? How do I teach a child what are the factors of a number? How do we teach a child what does fractions mean? Explain to them so they get to understanding.
Right. And so when teachers come in, I'm assuming there's a curriculum that they have to be trained on, right, for all grades.
Yeah, they get trained on a curriculum. There's a process that they go through before I let them teach children. But in the beginning, they spend time shadowing another instructor and learning how we do it so they understand the techniques. And then also, like, as I said in the beginning, the most important thing is I need to hire people for the right values. They need to care passionately about children, making sure children get better. They have empathy. They do not judge. You're not going to build any relationship with a child if you're just judging them. And little things like rolling your eyes, looking the other way. Those are all little subtle things people notice real fast. So the moment that an instructor walks up to the door, I'm evaluating them on how I think they're going to be able to deal with this. Because teaching is hard. It requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of introspection. You get it intimately. You need to teach a skill to someone else who's not getting it without judgment, with empathy.
What is working well in your Mathnasium right now? What do
What
you
is
find?
working well? The engagement we have with children. The instructors care passionately about what they're doing, and I continue to add more students each month. Those are the most important metrics for me.
How about on the flip side, what's been frustrating?
What's been frustrating? I think the biggest frustration is dealing with people who are not honest about why they're doing this. They're not honest with where the outcomes are. Like when you bring a child in who's in grade 10, who's 5 years behind in math, and you're like, can you fix this in the next month? You're like, no, this is a serious conversation we need to have. This is going to be hard work. The child needs to commit to this. You need to commit to this. We will commit to this. But if any one of the three don't, like, this is not going to work. Quick fix.
Right. In a case like that, do you also work with the school?
Not so much. Like, it's not easy for us here in Canada to work with the school. In Ontario, you need to be on the vendor list to even work with a school. And that requires quite a bit of paperwork, and no one's willing to do it, so that doesn't happen. So you can do things like help them out, like host a math night or whatever, but you can't just go in and change the way you teach math. Like, there is a guideline set down by the Ontario government as to how you have to teach math and the curriculum that you have to teach. We teach math very differently because it is a one-on-one experience. If society was willing to pay for this kind of service, all the children, or not necessarily every single one, but 80% of them would be very well schooled by the time they get through high school. But that would be an unbelievably expensive experience.
So in if like let's go back to that example that you gave. In that case where a student's significantly behind, do you have to ask the parent, I mean, you can't force them, but do you have to ask the parent, you have to commit to this amount of time in order for them to catch up?
So that's, in the beginning, I was more like, this is going to take time. But what I realized is people will commit as long as they see value. And then there are life changes. People's financial situation changes, and they can't afford to do this, or something else has happened. And, those conversations are hard, but people rarely talk about that. There's a lot of shame or whatever, and they just don't want to say those words. So they'll say, well, it's not really working out. I can see that we're making good progress here. The child wants to be here. Like, something else has changed, but they're not willing to say what's going on. And that's frustrating because I know that child had an opportunity for a life-changing event, and now it's been removed. And their life will be very different as an outcome.
Do you see a lot of, if that happens, do a lot of students come back eventually?
I had one, she came back. How long she'll stay for, I don't know. Maybe their financial situation changed. But Do we have enough time left? I don't know. And how long will they commit for us? It's tough. Like, this is a different kind of business model than a lot of business models. Because for most people, it's like simple transactions. Like for yourself, like you're looking at, selling drinks. Like that's not a life changing. You sell a drink, you do a good job, they come back, a day later, a week later, and
Hope they come back every day.
well, you hope that they come back every day. But they're small microtransactions. They're not like life changing microtransactions. This is a very different model, and I like this kind of challenge.
Yeah, I mean, an impact on a small event in a child's life can change your whole trajectory, right?
Definitely. Like if you think back through your life, all of the teachers that you've had, you can name a couple of them that had such a massive impact on your life, and the rest just don't exist anymore. You can't remember their names, you can't remember their faces, you don't even remember what they taught. But there's a couple who changed your life for whatever they did. I want to be in that list. I want them to remember this for the rest of their life. And it's such an amazing story when I have a parent come in and they go, you know what you've done with my child? You fixed their confidence. Math is now their best subject. Whereas before, they were scared of math. They didn't want to go to math class. They barely wanted to go to school. And now, when I talk to the parent and the child, they're like, math class is easy for me. And those are the most amazing stories. And I have many of those.
That's great. Where do you want your Mathnasium to be 6 to 12 months from now?
On the same path. I want to have more students and continue to teach math the way we've taught it since the day I opened, with passion and empathy. And I'm not here to open up 25 franchises. Like Mathnasium corporate guys are like, when are you going to open your next franchise? I'm not ready to do that. I don't know if I ever will. I don't know if I will ever find another person like me who I can trust to run this center while I do another one. And that's the biggest risk for me, is finding that person that could do what I do. I do everything. I do the bookkeeping, I do the cleaning, I did all the assembly. I built out most of the center. I hired all the people. I engage with every parent. I did all the sales. I do my own marketing that's not done through corporate. I engage with each child. I know all their names. I know all the challenges that they have. I know all the things that they're proud of. Having someone to invest that much skin is hard to find.
And until you find that person, then it doesn't make sense to.
It doesn't make sense. Like I saw another center. She opened a second center and she almost had both fail. She was splitting her time.
Yeah, and it really makes a difference when the owner is there and invested.
Yeah, like I see lots of people, like you walk into the subway or whatever and like, where's the owner? When was the last time they were here? You can tell the ones where the owner's there because you can see the output. The ones who are not there, they've just left it up to some rando to run their business for them. And maybe they didn't. If they got lucky and chose well, it's easy. But I see people like, I want to open my 10th franchise. I'm like, why? You're in it for the money. That's the thing. You're not in it for the children. All of your centers are not performing at the same rate. And it comes down to the people who are there. And that's the biggest differentiator. You've walked out of businesses because you weren't treated well. And you'll never go back. It doesn't matter what the product is. But if the human interaction was poor, you walked away.
If you were to start over and give your younger self some advice, what would that be?
Always be curious. That's the most important thing. And I didn't realize for a long time how important that was. And it's okay to fail. Learn from your failures. Always be analyzing.
Do you have an example where you weren't curious enough and then something changed to make you realize you needed to be more curious?
When I was younger, growing up on a farm, I was curious about some elements of it, but I felt trapped. I didn't realize this for a long time, till through a lot of introspection. When I left the farm, I never went back. Like, I'm gone, I'm out. And I always had sort of this, like, had I had a different path, would my life have been very different. And then I realized that growing up on a farm was the best life ever. It taught me so much about so many things that I can't begin to explain to you all the things I learned. When I talk to people, they're like, why do you know so much about so many different things? It's a combination of growing up in a space where all we did was problem solve, and I was curious. Like, to this day, I have parents who ask me, how can I get my child to read? I say, do you read? They're like, what do you mean? Do you read? Are there books in your house? Does your child see you read books? No? Well, how do you expect your child to read? I read. My house is full of books. I have bookshelves in basically every room in my house. I read every day. Mostly I read nonfiction because I'm still very interested in understanding history. And that's important to me. And my daughter reads. She mostly reads fantasy because that's interesting to her. But we have conversations about history and politics so that she gets an understanding of what's going on in the world. Most people have no idea what's out there because they're not curious enough. And I have these conversations with a lot of my instructors because they're like, well, what should I do next? Like, I'll give you the same conversation I've given every other person I've talked to in the last 30 years. Do something that you love. Do something that you're good at and make sure it pays you enough. What do you truly love? I don't know. What have you tried? What are you good at? What will pay you enough? And for each person, what will pay you enough is a different number. But if you can't answer the first two, what are you doing? And I have these conversations with people all the time because they don't know. And you can teach yourself so much. I taught myself how to be an auto mechanic. I built race cars for 30 years because I grew up on a farm and I had to fix things. Because I grew up on a farm and we had to deal with animals. I've built my own house. I designed my own house. I build furniture for giggles. I can fix or build pretty much anything. I understand complex systems. I helped build the heating system on the space station. I have been to 60 countries. I have traveled the earth to see people and to see the history, to understand those people. I've been to places no one else would ever think of going to. I've been to Iraq. I've been to Iran. I've been to Syria. You know what the stories we don't hear here? There are nice people there. Lots of them. There are some really awful people, government, police, army, but regular folks, they're nice people. They're just trying to put food on the table and a roof over their head, get their kids educated. We're portrayed here as monsters, but they're not. How do I know this? I've talked to them.
Well, that's really nice to hear your experience and your advice. Thank you for sharing that. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Easiest way is probably through LinkedIn. Just look up Bruce Jackson. You'll find Mathnasium. I keep a presence there. Outside of that in social media land, I don't keep much presence. I spent a lot of time in this life in doing security, so I try to keep a low profile in the world. And for me, a lot of social media is just brain rot. Someone's fake life about how they're so special about this thing. And they just have a facade that they put on.
Okay, so LinkedIn is the best for...
LinkedIn is basically the only place that I have a public presence. Mathnasium Centerpoint has a Facebook page. You can reach out to me through there as well. And that's an easy way.
Well, good. Thank you for being on the podcast today.
Oh, you're welcome, Teresa. Good luck on your adventures.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you got value, share it, tag us, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Catch you next time on the Ascend Growth AI podcast.